today we're going to be talking about hands that serve. And service is something that's very important. Service is something that most of us really enjoy. We enjoy good service, and we really dislike bad service, correct? I like to be served. If I go someplace, especially someplace where I'm going to spend money, I want those people to serve me. I deserve it, right? I want those people to serve me. I want them to bring me what I'm paying for. I want them to be friendly about it, and I want them to do the best possible job that they could do. And that seems to be kind of a consensus. Everybody kind of wants that same thing. I even noticed on Facebook this weekend, Randy, didn't know that I was going to point him out, but Randy posted a comment about, I don't even know what it was about. I didn't even ask him. But he said that he missed the lumber yards where people actually knew what they were talking about. You know, those, but now it's all the big box stores, and we go to Home Depot, and I've got some 17-year-old guy there trying to tell me how to install a door, and I know he's barely opened very many doors in his life, and so he does not know how to install the thing. And so I saw Randy post that, and I had a similar experience yesterday. I was at Home Depot. Nothing against Home Depot. I spend a lot of money at Home Depot. Between some of the other stuff I do and this place, we drop some change at Home Depot. I like the store. But every once in a while, you get there, and you can't find an orange vest to save your life. And when you do find an orange vest walking around, it seems like they have this radar that they're able to run away from you without ever making eye contact. Like they never, you're not sure if they saw you or not, but you are sure that they headed down the other aisle and disappeared somewhere. I don't know if they climb into a cubby. I don't know where they go, but you cannot catch those guys. And so after about 30, 45 minutes of walking up and down the door aisle, I'd see an orange vest, I'd make my move, they'd be gone. I just wanted to order. I wanted to see how long it would take to special order a door in a certain color. I tried, I couldn't find anybody. And then I did something that I'm not proud of. Every once in a while, I just make mistakes. And so you're going to have to bear with me on this one. I didn't say anything overly rude, and I didn't misrepresent myself, but I did, in my best Home Depot announcer voice, say, "Customer needs assistance indoors." Customer needs assistance indoors. And I stood there. And it didn't work. It would have been a great story if it would have worked. It didn't work. I ended up having to go up to the front, ask somebody if they could page somebody to get back there to tell me no, they couldn't order the door in the color that I wanted to. So all of that time was down the drain. All of that to say this: we like to be served. My attitude leaving Home Depot would have been totally different if somebody would have served me immediately. We have the same thing when we go to restaurants. We go sit down at a place and we like to be served. That's really, a lot of times more so than the food, that's what draws us to an establishment, is the service. We like the way we're treated when we're there because people serve us well, and we all like to be served. We're going to talk about this morning hands that serve. And I'm going to ask, Stephanie showed up, and I was going to talk with her before, but I didn't, and so she can be mad at me later. But Stephanie, can you come up here for me? Teach you to be late. Can you stand over here at my server's table? I'm asking Stephanie because she is experienced in service. She works at a restaurant in Norman. And so I know that she is experienced at what people need when they sit down at a table. And the first thing that they need is something to drink, right? And they need something to drink out of. So could you please just take our lovely couple see this neat little cafe we have set up over here? If you could just walk them over some glasses so that you can pour them some water in a little bit. Can you just take them those cups for me? Thank you. It's pretty easy, isn't it? It gets harder, I promise. Okay. So as she's serving them and talking to them for a second over there, service is something important. And when you're at a table and you go to this restaurant, you expect to be served, and you expect for Stephanie to stay there a little longer and chat with you and talk to you. about what's going on. Ask about your kids. Ask how life is. Ask if you're having a great day. Ask if you'd like an appetizer. Would you like any other beverage besides water? Would you like something? We don't have any of that, but you can ask them if you want to. All we have is a pitcher of water. But you like to kind of form a relationship, because it means something more to you when there's a relationship that's formed. When you feel like you like the person that's serving you, it means a little something. It's a little better. You don't like to be served by somebody you don't like. You want to have this relationship because you don't know what they're going to do to your stuff when they go behind the wall. So you always try to be friendly, and you put on a great face, and you try to form a relationship with this server. But eventually the server's going to leave and go back to her place. Good, you're getting this. All right, good job. All right, so I want to read you while she stands over here. I want to read you a verse that you're going to go, I don't know why you're reading this verse, John, or why you're telling this story. But there's a story in the Bible about a man named Lazarus. And Lazarus was a friend of Jesus. He was the brother of Mary and Martha. Mary was the one, Martha was the one that anointed Jesus' feet and washed it with, dried it with her hair. He was their brother. And Jesus and Lazarus were friends. And Jesus was a ways off. And he got word that Lazarus was sick. And then he got word that Lazarus was dying. And then he got word that Lazarus was dead. And even after that point, he waited a little while. And after he'd waited this little while, he said, let's go back and see Lazarus. And so he gets back to see Lazarus, and Mary and Martha meet him, and they say, Jesus, if you'd have been here sooner, Lazarus wouldn't have died. And then Martha says the same thing, Jesus, if you'd have been here, our brother wouldn't have died. He'd have been alive. You could have healed him. We've seen the miracles you've done. We've seen the way that you work in people's lives. And we wouldn't be in the position we are right now if you would have just been here. Jesus talks to him about their faith. And Jesus, this is where the Bible says that Jesus wept. And people debate back and forth about why Jesus cried. If it was just because of losing his friend, but he knew he could raise him from the dead, so why would he cry about that? Or maybe he was crying at their disbelief or their lack of faith, or he was crying for Jerusalem. You can read all of that stuff of why he was crying, and that's where the shortest verse in the Bible is found. Jesus wept. And it goes through that, and then we get to the point where Jesus says, I want to see Lazarus. Roll the stone away. And they say, Jesus, he's dead. I like the way the King James Version says it. It says, by now he stinketh. And stinketh sounds so much better than stinks. But it says he's got a stink by now. He's been in there 4 days. The guy's dead. And Jesus, in the book of John, is where we're going to pull this from. John 11, I'm just going to read you verse 43 and 44. Jesus told them to roll the stone away, and they did. They opened the tomb. And verse 43 says, then Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out. And his hands and feet were bound in grave clothes, and his face wrapped in headcloth. And Jesus told them, unwrap him and let him go. Unwrap him and let him go. Lazarus, great miracle here. Lazarus has been dead for 4 days in the tomb. Jesus comes, raises him from the dead. Awesome miracle, but that's not the miracle that we're going to talk about today. I want to key in on the fact that he came out and his hands and his feet were bound. His hands and his feet were bound. Now, this is always weird to me. I mean, I realize that they wrap people, but all of the mummy movies that I've ever seen, the mummies are like this, they can get around. They chase people. But it says that his hands and his feet were bound. And when I knew what I was talking about today, and I was just reading through Scripture and I was studying, I read this. This kind of stuck with me, and so you're going to have to follow me down this rabbit trail I'm going here. But Lazarus had a purpose on this earth. The same purpose that you and I both have. And it's the same purpose that Jesus himself had. If you look in Matthew 20, verse 25 through 28, it says, Jesus called them together and said, "You know that in this world kings are tyrants, and officials lord it over the people beneath them. But among you it should be quite different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must become your slave. For even I, the Son of Man, came here not to be served, but to serve others, and to give my life as a ransom for many." Jesus Christ came not to be served, but to serve. You were put here on this earth not to be served, but to serve others. And serving really comes naturally to us. It's not a distinct Christian characteristic. Serving is something that we, in a way that we want to do by helping people. We want to help people. If you've noticed, anytime something happens, if there's a natural disaster, or if somebody just finds out that somebody gets some disease, or if somebody does this or does that, there's always this outpouring of people that want to help. They want to serve that person. They want to help them however they can. It kind of comes naturally to us. But the difference between serving as a Christian and just serving as somebody who is not is that as a Christian, your service is to put yourself beneath someone else. A lot of times, on the other side of things, when you serve somebody, you want to be recognized, right? I want my name on this plaque because I helped in this. I want some sort of recognition to show what I've done. And a lot of times your service is nothing more than a publicity stunt. But as Christians, in the way that Jesus described it here, our service is supposed to come from our desire to be like Him. Our service comes from a desire to be like Him. And He came not to be served, but to serve. Not to be exalted, but to be humbled. Listen to that, to be humbled. And serving is supposed to come naturally to us. It's what we do. And when we follow Christ and we become His hands and feet, as the Bible puts that, we become the body of Christ and we go out for Him. As we become that in life, our service is not to lift ourselves up, but we do our service to lift up Him, to show His love, to show what He can do. And that's our purpose on this earth, is to serve. To serve others. And sometimes that comes easy. Stephanie, could you just take that water over to them? It's a little heavy and it's plastic, so be careful, but if you can drop it. Okay, this is not hard. Okay, stop right there. All right. She could very easily go over there and pour that drink right now, because there's nothing that has her bound. She's free to move. She's free to do whatever she can do to get over there and pour them some water. Can you go back to your serving table and put your water down? Her eyes, she's like, what are you going to do? Go back with me to Lazarus. Come here real quick, Stephanie. Lazarus had been bound. Put your hands out. It says that his hands and his feet, this is vet wrap. They use it on horses, but this is new. It's not, it hadn't been used. But it's really strong. There you go. All right. That tight? It's cutting off circulation. Easy to move your arms. Can you move your hands? Can you? Okay. It says that his hands were bound, but it also says that his feet, put your feet together, feet were bound. All right. We'll see how this goes here. Oh, that stuff's stretchy. All right. So he comes out of the grave and his hands are bound and his feet are bound, and he's probably having a little bit of trouble moving around. I'm guessing you're going to have a little bit of trouble moving around. You have balance problems? This could be rough. Try to fall back if you fall, because there's expensive stuff here and there's a drop-off there. So you might want to take off the foot. Are those flip-flops? No. Oh, no. All right. Well, try to make it over there to that water. I hate this situation that you're in. But her service is seriously hindered at this point. As fast as you can go? Because I'm about done, and these people would really like it if we got out of here, but you're kind of holding up the process. As she makes it back to her water, Lazarus was in the same situation. Lazarus had a purpose in life. And not only had he been dead for 4 days, which will really hinder your purpose here on earth, he was dead for 4 days, but when he was finally raised and when Jesus finally said, come out, he came out of the tomb, but he was still bound. He was still bound. The water. Get the water. He was still bound in these things that they had put on him because people tried to prepare him for what he was doing. I'm going to stand back here. I didn't tell y'all there was a possibility of getting wet, did I? Sorry. I won't wet it. Well, maybe. You're doing great. Lazarus came out, and when he came out, people had wrapped him in things. They had put things around him that hindered him from serving his purpose. His purpose was to serve others. He had the same purpose that you and I had. That's why when Jesus said, let him go, he didn't literally, nobody had a hold of him. He was just bound by things. And sometimes we find ourselves in that same situation. We find it hard to go and to serve because we're bound by things that people have put on us. Things that people put on us and say that you can't do that, or you're not good enough, or that won't work, or you weren't meant to do that. This is going to be too hard for you. You can't accomplish that. Are you doing all right? All right. You can't accomplish what you're trying to accomplish because, and they just wrap and they wrap and they wrap you up, stop right there, until you are bound and can't move. We all find ourselves in that situation. Is that heavy? That's a little bit. Let me help you real quick. I'll give it back to you in a second. Okay. We find ourselves in situations all the time where we feel like we should do something. We feel like there is that it's expedient that we do something, that we need to do it now. And the same way that Stephanie felt like she needed to get that water over there, it was just taking her a long time because she was bound up in something that I had put on her. Jesus never intended her to walk around with vet wrap around her hands and feet. It's not her purpose. It's not her purpose for being on this stage. Her purpose for being on stage was to do a simple task of serving these two people that are sitting at this table. But I put something on her that hindered her service. What's hindering your service? What's hindering you from doing the things that you know you need to be doing for God? That you know you need to be doing for others to represent Christ? What's keeping you bound? What's keeping you bound? Do you have your pocket knife on you, Dad? It's a stupid question usually, but thank you. What keeps you bound? Find the dull blade. What keeps you bound up? Because it's something. We all have something. We all have something in us that keeps us bound. It could be fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. It could be anything, and I'm not going to go through the laundry list of things that could hold you up. But in certain times of our lives, we all find ourselves in a place where we are bound, where we can't do the service that we're called to do. And what we need to do is find that Lazarus moment, like Lazarus had, where Jesus called him out. And he said, let him go. Let him go. Not just loose him. That is the dull blade. Not just loose him. I won't cut you. I won't. I'm going to concentrate a little bit here. You scared yet? Last one. to loose somebody. The act of service that took place in this story of Lazarus took place on many levels. Lazarus was obedient and came out. Jesus raised him from the dead. But somebody had to be obedient to let him go, to let Lazarus loose, to unbind him so that he could go and do his purpose. And so you may find yourself in this place where you're bound and you need to be set free, or you may find yourself as the one with the pocket knife. You might be the one that needs to help somebody get free so that they can do what they're called to do. Whatever it is, you have a purpose and you have hands that are meant to serve. Your hands are meant to serve. Thank you. You can sit down. You guys can go have a seat if you want to. You're meant to serve this morning. Not just show up. These two sitting at this table didn't do squat the whole time. They found that the person that was trying to serve them was in trouble. They saw the person coming towards them was hindered. There was something in her life. She obviously needed something. And they didn't move. They didn't help. Now, that's because I told them not to. I told them just to sit there. But that's not what you've been told to do. You've been told by Jesus to serve, to be a servant, to put your needs aside and to help others. I don't like to admit this very often. But sometimes I learn things from people. Now that part I don't mind admitting. But this lesson of servanthood, I actually learned that from Chad a lot. He didn't know I was going to talk about him either. But when we started this church, Chad had a different heart than what I had. Not better, not worse, just different. His calling was, there was this passion inside him to serve others. And he would do that, which I admired. But sometimes it frustrated me because he would drag me along. And he would serve others. And we would help people move. We would disconnect people's appliances for them and move them. We would help people move stuff to storage. We were constantly doing things for other people. Sometimes to the extent that the stuff that we had to do here didn't get done. And it would frustrate me at times. Just to be honest with you, I would get frustrated because I would feel so behind and we'd be going to do something for somebody else. But you see, he was at a place that I needed to get to. And so God placed him in my life to teach me that. To give me a servant's heart. Now, I've always been that way with my family. And I've always been quick to help other people. But it was just like this was the extra mile. And pretty soon I got to the point where, you know what? I see why we're doing this. I understand why we're doing what we're doing. I understand this servanthood thing. I understand that God gave me hands to serve. Not to serve myself, but to serve others. See, the problem is too many times we're self-serving. We like to do things ourselves. And here's the reason we like to do things ourselves. I'm the same way. I always do things myself. I don't call people for help. I always do things myself. And the reason is, probably, if you just go down to the deepest level, I don't want to owe people anything. And if somebody helps me, I'm going to feel obligated to help them. I'm going to feel like I have to return the favor. And I just don't like to be tied down that way. Right? And so we do things ourselves. We're self-serving. We're just going through the self-checkout line of life. We just do everything ourselves. But what we do when we do that is we rob other people the opportunity to be a blessing to us. We rob other people the opportunity to serve like they were called to do. And maybe just by letting that person help you, you're the one that's cutting the bindings off of them. Maybe when you let somebody serve you, you have empowered them to serve others as well. Because you've released them. You've let them go. God gave you hands to serve. Don't find yourself bound up any longer. Jesus is calling to you the same way He called to Lazarus. He's saying, come forth. And as soon as you take that step and you come forth, He's going to say, let him go. And He's going to release you to be able to serve. And at that point, it's your responsibility to find people to serve. Find ways to serve. You say, I just don't know what I can do. I'm going to give you a couple ideas before we leave here. Every week you come to this building and you enjoy your donuts and you enjoy your coffee. You enjoy whoever's standing at the door greeting you with a smile. It's friendly. It's nice. Those people are serving you. And you have the opportunity to join them and do the same thing. If you're interested in volunteering for any of that, you can talk to Daniel. If you don't know who Daniel is, he's the bald guy that was sitting at this table. You can talk to him, and we will give you the opportunity to serve here. Because I think when you begin to serve here, it begins to change your heart the same way it did mine. Your heart begins to change, and now you're not just showing up and filling a spot, but you begin to look for ways that you can serve other people, and it bleeds out of here. And you're not just serving people here, but you begin to serve people in your neighborhood, and you begin to serve people at your job, and you begin to serve people wherever you go. If this isn't your cup of tea, there's a place back here called the Doghouse. They need volunteers to watch your little screaming kids. And it's fun. And you have a blast. But it's serving others. It's serving all of the people in here so that they can sit and they can concentrate. So that they can sit and they don't have to keep telling little Johnny, quit touching that. Don't touch that. Don't do that. And those kids over there are getting age-appropriate lessons where they learn about Christ and about being His hands and about serving. They learn that over there. On Wednesday nights, we have the same thing over there, and then we have it for the youth too at the dig. They need volunteers there. They need people to serve. And if none of that is your cup of tea, you don't want to do any of that, fine. Find somewhere else. I've given you some options, but you find somewhere and you begin to serve other people, because you won't be living out your purpose until you do. Your purpose here is the same as Christ. Not to be served, but to serve. Sometimes that service comes in the form of letting somebody go, of letting somebody serve you so that they can learn and they can develop.